Look, Star Wars discourse hasn't been great for a while. Maybe the best thing for me to do is to slowly revisit this stuff significantly after the fact. I don't know. In any case, getting another commission review out of the way. This one, it's not for the whole season, but it is for two specific episodes of the second season of Star Wars Visions. Now, the first season of Star Wars Visions I watched and did not enjoy. Not because the stories were bad. Some of them were quite good, some of them were eh. But the thing that fundamentally ticked me off, and this is probably partially on me, apparently it was clearer in the marketing lead up to it what this thing was actually going to be, and I wasn't paying attention to that because there's only so much attention I pay to marketing stuff, depending on the show. Doctor Who, I pay the most, and even that, I deliberately miss a lot of stuff because they tell me more than I want to know more often than not. But I didn't like the first season because every single story, in one way, shape, or form, was about Jedi or Sith or both. And I've said this repeatedly, but just in case you are new to the channel or have missed the videos where I've said this, I so don't care about the Jedi or Sith. At this point, it hasn't always been the case, but at this point in time, I find that to be the least interesting thing about Star Wars. I'm so bored with those freaking things. And so the fact that you had a season of television that was all these different anime studios and that were completely unbound from the continuity of existing characters that could be set anywhere in the galaxy, and it was still always coming back to the freaking Jedi and Sith, it ticked me off. Again, not a fault of the quality of that first season of Star Wars Visions, but that ticked me off. And as a result, I did not bother with the second season. Well, this commissioner, I see you. I see you. I know exactly what you're doing. And I know why you picked these two. So apparently, the necessity of bringing in Jedi and or Sith into every single episode was not the case for Star Wars Vision Season 2. And this commissioner selected two episodes which do not feature either of them. And as a result, are pretty good. Actually, one of them I would say is excellent. The other one is probably better than I came away feeling from it, but I'll get to that in a minute. So there were two episodes. The first one that I watched was Spy Dancer, which I liked a lot. And it is very evocative of that sort of feeling of the French resistance in World War II. You know, you still have performers and cafes and cabarets, and they have to perform for frickin' stormtroopers. And these are the people they want nothing more than to get them gone and be free of these people. But they might even be trying to work on that behind the scenes, but they're still stuck having to appear to be on their side. And yeah, that was a good thing to evoke as a general visual, as the fact that a number of the characters had vaguely French accents. Like, it made the point. So I like that. Visually, it's very nice. Especially the work during the dance and the action scenes are really good. And the weight and the damage done by fascism, by the empire and its occupancy, is sold really well, not just by the narrative, but by the characters. You really feel the pain they have been enduring, especially from the lead character, whose name I'm now struggling to remember. Started with a V. She's the dancer. And even though there's a twist that has its full reveal towards the end, and I called very early, which probably took a little bit of the wind out of it, but it still worked. It still worked for making the point of lasting damage, generational damage caused by living under these conditions. And it was just good. It had a little bit of a sense of hope, but you felt that presence. Like, even though a lot of these stormtroopers, you know, in this place just here to watch a show, come across like buffoons, you still feel like there's danger here all around them. It manages that balance really well. I was I really liked that. And honestly, it reminded me more than a little of Andor. Obviously, nowhere near as deep and as thorough in its theming as Andor was, but it hit those same kind of nerves. It hit that same kind of what is it like to be stuck living under this, and how are people trying to get out of it? Feel that Andor has at its heart, amongst all the other stuff that it's doing. And yeah, this one hit me pretty dang good. The other one was The Pit. The Pit's really well constructed. It is really well put together. And unfortunately, I was in a mood this morning where its ending just wasn't going to land right for me. Not in a way that makes me think that's a bad ending. Even as I was watching, I was thinking, this is a good ending. But just because of just stuff I've been dealing with and the world in general, I was just in a headspace where my brain kind of went, okay, well, yeah, that's nice. Okay. And I think that says more about the mood I was in than anything else. I haven't traditionally talked a ton about like my mood when I watch stuff. I've started doing a little bit more on this channel because it comes up here. It doesn't really come up on the main channel very much because pretty much everything I do there, even when I do reviews, mostly Doctor Who, but I'm doing them after having sat with something for a couple days. I've sat with it, I've thought about it, I've worked out my points. So, whatever effect my mood had at the time that I watched it, I've processed through it, and I'm then talking about it a bit later with my thoughts worked out. Here, because this is an off-the-cuff channel, partially so that it does not eat up a ton of my time, the result is that my mood can have a much more immediate impact on what I end up saying on camera and how I feel about the thing in the moment. And that is kind of the case with The Pit, because The Pit is good. The way it builds a story, it is predictable. I suppose in some ways so was Spy Dancer, but I found this a little bit more predictable. But it still has some really good points that it's making, some really good imagery. As these people are, these slaves are just being marched out into the desert by stormtroopers, given pickaxes, told to dig, and they keep digging until they find what the stormtroopers want. And even as they do that, a city is built on the wealth that they dig up. And that is something that they will be barred from. And I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of everything else going on, but it gets pretty heavy in a way that feels very earned. The resolution, again, is good. I think it's quite good. I watched it. I was in a headspace, and like, to be honest, the headspace I was in probably also made Spy Dancer hit harder in a good way, in the same way that it kind of made this one hit not quite as hard as it probably had a right to. But regardless of the specifics of my thoughts, these two episodes overall basically illustrate what I wanted from the first season of Star Wars Visions and got literally none of. Now, does this mean I'm going to check out the rest of season 2? No. I mean, there's the logistical thing. I don't really have the time. But beyond that, there's also the fact that, I suspect that these were picked because they are the exception. I expect it's probably still Sith and Jedi heavy, but I really appreciate being directed to the episodes that weren't, because, yeah, that's good. This is what I needed. This is what I wanted. And it's what the first season completely failed to give me. Star Wars is such a massive setting. And I get hopeful when it expands beyond the Sith and the Jedi. Because, I'm not saying they have to abandon it altogether. Most people, or maybe not most, lots of people at least, aren't completely sick of that. I am. And I think there's a lot of really fascinating stories you could tell that have nothing to do with any of that. And I think these two episodes illustrate my point. quite well, in fact. You know, aside from the fact that Andor already did that. But anyways. Have you watched season 2 of Star Wars Visions? Do you have thoughts on these episodes in particular? Do you have other episodes you want to give your thoughts on and or recommend? Whatever your thoughts might be, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills and enables me to do this as my living. Even if you can't help me out that way, like, share, subscribe. They all help me out. Patreon was how I was commissioned to review this, but, you know, don't worry too much about all that. What I really want you to remember is that ultimately, look, we're just here to take a relaxed attitude. So just chill. Come on back. Next time you need a break. And now to thank my highest supporting patrons. Robin Moore, Zumila Fulla, Goddess Elida, Trista Ashley, Oliver B., Melissa Peterson, Tarak, The Thing That Goes Going to the Anime, Gene Foray, Movie Turtle, Ulrich Bogdan, Loki Eris, Linda Walters, Jen, Auntie Kate 808, Becky Sparks, Fernambilax the Poodle, Tracy Scrabbit, Angry Casperol, Dave Hall, White Barish, Rosalind Bennett, Pal Barabajagal, Lucy Wood, Dorm Mayhew, and Mary G. Thank you for your support, and consider supporting me as well on Patreon.